I'm going to talk to you about Pandora's home retro arcade system, which I bought a couple of months back. I just thought I would give you a video review from somebody who has no vested interest in Pandora or the company I bought this from, but just as somebody who really enjoys gaming and somebody who, if I'm honest, was a little bit skeptical before I bought this product. I always wanted to have an arcade machine in my house. Like, this is a childhood dream. I'd seen the Raspberry Pis, but to me, I think Raspberry Pis are great if you know what you're doing, but I don't think I really do know what I'm doing, and they seemed like a lot of work. So I just wanted something that acts like a game console. I turn it on, I plug it in, and it just works, which was why I was happy to maybe pay a little bit more. So I decided to go, eventually, a little leap of faith when I saw the advert for this home retro arcade system, because, as I say, I wasn't 100% about the validity of the claims it was making. I've got to say that I thought that this could be a con, that I was going to shell out a load of money and I wasn't actually going to get what was promised. The website seemed a little bit dodgy. Seemed like it was really doing a hard sell, but it didn't look that professional, so I had a few misgivings. So reluctantly, but also quite excitedly, I decided to take the plunge and go for it. I bought it on a credit card because I felt like, well, if this is a con and it doesn't work, or it's just never arrives, then at least I can, get my money back. I placed the order on the 25th of April 2021, and it arrived in my house on the 7th of May 2021, which I think is pretty impressive, actually, to get from China to the UK in that kind of amount of time. I was really quite impressed with that. And I could track it the whole way through the shop app, which again just gave me a bit of reassurance that it was going to arrive. But even as I was waiting for it, I still felt like this thing may well not even work when it arrives. It may just not work very well. And when it did arrive on the 7th of May, I was beyond excited to get my hands on it, because some of these games I just have not played since the 80s or early 90s or whatever, or even late 90s, which is still a long time ago. It arrived, and I've got to say, it looked the business. I selected a Double Dragon player because that was just my ultimate all-time favourite game, and it arrived, and it just looked really, really smart and sturdy, well built, and a good size, and it had a nice weight to it as well. So even before I actually got to play with it, a lot of my fears were allayed. Then it came to actually setting it up and having a go, which was very easy. It really was. It's just literally a case of plugging the UK power adapter into the mains, which the power adapter came with it. Plugging that into the back of the system, and then connecting an HDMI cable from the back of the system to my TV, and it works like an absolute dream. I was very surprised that it was that easy. I switched it on, and I still, because I'm a skeptical person, didn't believe it was going to work properly until it actually did work properly. The opening is very impressive. Classic games all coming at you from all angles, and the music's playing over, and I was like, okay, this is promising. And then it came up with this menu of games, and even though I checked on the list of games on the Pandora thing, I still wasn't 100% sure that it was going to have the actual versions of the games that I wanted. Like it might have, Double Dragon, for example, but it was the ZX Spectrum Double Dragon, or it was just some random thing that wasn't very good. So that was the first game I played, and yeah, I can tell you 100% that is the Double Dragon that I remember playing as a kid in the arcades in like on the East Coast in Bridlington, Scarborough, what have you, and it was just awesome. And yeah, so I would say as well, what is nice about it is that you can you've got the joysticks, so it functions like an arcade game. So you've got your joystick, you've got your buttons, and yeah, you feel like you're there. You can plug it into your big TV, or you can plug it into your computer monitor, whichever takes your fancy. And yeah, it's really good. What is also good about it is it is set up for a 2-player. So right out of the box, you can play it with a friend or your family or whatever, and play those classic beat 'em ups like Street Fighter or what have you. But in addition to that, it has a USB port in the back, which means that you can plug a USB 4 gangway adapter thing into the back and plug basically like a bog standard PlayStation style controller that will enable you to play about 4 players, which is fantastic for games like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think The Simpsons as well, it also does that. Which is also great because it just opens up for more players, and it also means if there are some games that maybe you didn't play on the arcade but you played on a home games console, then it means that you can play them as you remember playing them. So that's really good, because I found like playing certain games with a joystick when I used to play them on the PlayStation, for example, just didn't work quite as well. So it does just enable you to have that flexibility. What are the downsides? Well, I mean, it's not cheap. It's not a cheap thing. It was, it was a fair outlay. One of the things at first maybe slightly suspicious was that I had to pay in dollars, which always makes me nervous. And it cost me about $280 to buy the console itself, plus another $10 shipping, which equates to basically about £210, something like that, altogether. You can possibly buy it cheaper now. I paid over and above the odds, but having said that, £210, is probably still cheaper than you're paying for a lot of consoles nowadays, or about the going rate. And considering there's 1,000+ games on there, something like that, it's really good. What else? It doesn't have absolutely everything. It doesn't have some games I would expect it to, but there's very few that I wanted that it didn't have. The ones that I really love, it does have, and it also does connect to the Wi-Fi, to broadband, so wirelessly, which is really cool. So you can go online, and there is like a game store. You can download more games, and I've done a few of them. Performance, absolutely spot on. Have not had a problem with it at all. It just performs like I would expect it to. Every now and then, I've found that especially if I'm using the PlayStation style controller, that I accidentally come out of the game by pressing the wrong button, when I'm furiously trying to do a special move or something. But other than that, it's pretty darn good. So yeah, I would recommend, and everything that you can see, all those gameplays that I've done on the Average Joe Games has been done using the Home Retro arcade system. So it's definitely worth a punt, and I would recommend. It's a lot of fun.